Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Leadership for the Now. My name is Florian, and I'm so delighted to be with you today. And today, I was supposed to be joined by my teaching partner, Alena Ipanova, but Alena has an emergency, so you only get me. I know, I'm not that pretty, I'm not that good as Alena is, but I have to do this. I have made a commitment to be here, and I'm going to be here with you today. And I hope that I'm going to add some value to you. I'm going to do my best to cover up for Lalena. And I know this is not going to be as dynamic as you have experienced it before, but I'm going to do my best to pass on some information to you that I think will help you. So today we're looking at a skill that I believe is absolutely essential, not only for leaders but for everyone as individual. If we want to move forward, if we want to improve any area of our life, sooner or later we're going to have to deal with people. And in dealing with people, in order for us to get what it is that we want, we also have to help other people to get what they want. This is what Zig Ziglar said. He said, if you help in life enough people get what they want, you will get what you want. And in order for us to be able to help enough people get what they want, we need to really listen and understand what it is that they want. So, if you're a leader, if you work with people, I think this topic is for you. So, one of the things that comes to mind first, and I put some notes here and I might look at them from time to time, but one of the things that comes first to mind is this idea that communication is the words that we speak. So many years in my early career, I didn't really knew anything better. So what I done is what I was taught to do. I was using my communication and the words that I was speaking as being the only mean of communication, and I was completely blind to anything else or everything which was around that. But then later I learned that communication, actually in communication, words count for only 7%. So we're now communicating, and the words I say account only for 7% of the communication. The other 93% accounts for my body language, my tone of voice, my intonation, gesture, you know, inflection in my voice, because you could say things in different ways and it will mean different things. So that's why there is a lot of misunderstanding in the written word, because you just removed everything that I just shared. You remove that 93%, it only gets 7%. So in any communication, in any interaction with another human being, with a team member, with a client, with a prospect, there is a communication happening. And there is usually a pass on of information from a sender to a receiver. And in that interaction, sometimes we try to influence the other person. So we're gonna be the sender, and we try to influence them, to maybe adapt our idea, or maybe to want to work with us, or maybe to pick us on that project, whatever that is. And at times we're gonna be influenced by other people. So communication is a two-way street. And what's the role of active listening, and why there is an ROI on active listening? I can give you an example. The best way I can describe this to you is to share a story of one of my clients. So for you know for GDPR purposes, we're going to call this person John, right? Let's call him John. Now, when I start working with John, actually, when I met John, I started to see, John and I met at an event I was speaking, and then I started to see, when we started interacting, we had lunch and we had coffee. Then he started to share a little bit of what he was doing and his journey, and I started to see myself more and more in John, because John had a similar journey and story as I had. I started as an engineer in an automotive company in Romania back in 2006. That was my first job. And at that moment, I was working by myself into a technical area of our department. But little by little, we started to build a team around me. So I become what we call a local technical leader. I didn't have a leadership position, or I didn't actually had people responsibility for these for the team around me, but I was more the experienced person, the most experienced person in the technical field. So I had some kind of technical leadership. And at that time, things were really going really smoothly because I was the expert. I was the technical guy they came to. What happened next is that one of my mentors, and I'm so grateful for that, saw something in me that I couldn't see myself. And I was promoted as a team leader. So I become the team leader of the team that I was part of. Now, here, things started to change because while I was a good technician, I was a really good technician and technical individual, and so was John, we didn't have the people skills. We didn't have the soft skills that were needed for us to be a leader. So things started to, gradually degrade. When things were not delivered on time, what I would do is I would put more pressure on my team because this is what worked for me. So when I work very well under pressure, and so was John. Like if you give me a deadline, I'm gonna be doing my best to actually, respect that deadline. But some people on my team actually didn't react the same way to pressure. So when deadlines were missed, I would put more pressure on them, and that would create even more stress. You know, it didn't happen to me, but for John, one of his team members went into burnout. So we can clearly see that the way that promotions are made in most companies, in most organizations, is that you take the best technical individual and you think they're good, they know the topic, they know the subject, they're the go-to guy or girl. Now let's promote that. And what you do, you actually lose a good technician and you gain a bad manager. But it doesn't have to be that way because we can learn leadership as we can learn technical skills. So although when I met John, he was in the same situation I was years ago in my first position, then that's when he started to become receptive and aware that there must be another way. And what I think he done really well is that he reached out. He reached out and said, Florian, I've been reading your emails. I attended some of your events, and I'm consuming your content. I have a challenge. Can I talk to you? And so then we sat and we discussed the challenge, and then we both agree that the best way forward is to help John, hone in, up level his soft skills. And what we started doing is we're looking at, okay, what is the team feeling? What do they really feel? And you know what? He was not really sure. Why? Because neither I or him really listened and really listened to understand. When I was in meetings and after the meeting, one of my team members will ask me, Florian, what do you think they meant by that? And I would say, well, what do you mean? They meant exactly what they said. I would just listen to the words were said. I wouldn't pick up the non-spoken words, right? So what happens is that little by little, in our bi-weekly coaching sessions with John, I took him through one of our programs called Developing the Leader Within You. And little by little, he started to see things that he couldn't see before. So now he started to tune in with his team. Now he started to see, oh, so this is what the team actually needed for me. He started to listen more, talk less. In meetings, he started to allow the time for the team to actually share their ideas and actually really invite the team to share their ideas. And he would shut down. He would shut off because what he was doing, he was like me, thinking that if I give my team all the information and all the ideas and all the things that I'm thinking, that will be enough and they will just run with them. And that's not how it works. So by working on his leadership skills and on his listening skills, he was really able to get tuned in and in tune with his team. And while some people still need the directions, maybe other people needed less direction. And he was tuned in with that. And when the person came back from burnout, they felt that, oh, the environment here, the culture of the team seems to be, I don't know what it is about it, but seems to be better, seems to be different in a good way. So I'm not going to mention all the other results that, of course, they got by the project being on time. But this is what active listening and soft skill has done for John, and has also done for me. When I went through the same challenge. So I think that's, for me, that's the perfect example of how soft skills can help you as well. I can help me. Now, you're asking Florian, but okay, you're talking about ROI. What's that? Return on investment, right? Tell me, what's the return on investment if I spend time to actually hone my listening skills and then practice active listening more. Now, I have found two types of returns on investment, or ROIs. You have the direct benefits, right? So, for example, if you would be having a client meeting, like if you really listen really well, really deeply, actively listening in that client meeting and asking the kind of question you should be asking, then chances are, and I don't think it's just chances, but let's just assume chances are that you're gonna actually understand that client better, meaning that you're gonna be able to provide better solutions, that they will be more effective. You don't have to do work twice because maybe you misunderstood yourselves in the first meeting. So it's definitely saving time, leading to better solution, long-term collaboration with the client, and they're happy with the results. Let's take another example. Just by reducing misunderstanding in communication inside any team, this will actually just accelerate the production, accelerate. Think about how much time do we lose back and forward, sometimes in email exchanges, on topics that should be just clarified with a 3-minute meeting, or someone just that has the information is not able to communicate it the way that we get it, or we don't really listen actively to actually get their perspective, and we don't ask enough questions. So I know cases like that, and I'm sure if we would be listening more and be actively listening when we are in the meeting, we're not gonna double multitask, or do be double booked, or be one eye here, one eye here, or one ear in this meeting and one ear in this meeting, or trying to do work during the meeting. And then have you ever seen that someone shares something and then ask you, Florian, what do you think? And you have to say, well, sorry, I was doing something else. Can you repeat that? That's a time waster, right? So this is the direct ROI, right? Better customer satisfaction, better solution, and also efficiency gains if we really listen. Then there is also some indirect benefits. For example, employee engagement. Now, I know that's not something that is easy to measure, but there are measurement tools that you could definitely measure. What's the employee engagement percentage, or score before you actively listen as a leader, and what's after. So if you just start to integrate that practice into your leadership practice, to listen to your team, to make sure that people are understood, that they feel understood. Think about that. When someone rates their experience with a company, they don't rate the company. The company, it's an entity, but what they rate is their experience with you, their closest manager and their closest team leader, their closest project leader, their project owner, product owner or scrum master, their peers. That's what they rate. When they say do you feel your work it's engaging? Do you feel engaged at work? They're not talking about the the CEO of the company. They might not even know who the CEO is, or if they know, then they might not had the chance to talk to the CEO. So that's what gives employee engagement. And then we also have the company culture that it's actually promoted. So think about what kind of culture would you have if you really spend time in listening and active listening, engaging in active listening with your team, and making sure that people actually verbalize their worries, their concerns, their questions, that you don't have to guess. And then there is trust around the table just because you really want to listen and help. It's not just about you getting it right, or it's about actually you getting it right, not being right. So these are just some ROIs of active listening. And let me just, I'm not going to go the entire 25-30 minutes as we usually do, but I just have some more things here that I put on. I think these are things that are going to help you. So let's discuss some mistakes that we make when we actually communicate, and especially when we don't listen enough. One of the things is that we usually just shut up so we can actually speak. So in other words, when someone shares their idea or someone speaks, what we say, we're just going to politely wait until the person finishes. So we share what we want to share. That's not listening. We don't really listen at all. Or if we do listen, we just wait and shut up until they finish. So either we listen to be able to counterattack and to counter argument, or we're just not listening at all and we're going with our own idea anyway. So we shut up until they finish. It's just polite. Or sometimes we even interrupt people. That's not listening. The other thing is we make assumptions. One of the things that we know, there is a saying, assumption is the root of all mess ups. And that's true, and even more in leadership, because if we assume we know what someone wants, if we assume that we know what someone wanted to say, if we assume that we know what motivates an individual on our team, if we assume what the client wants, all these assumptions would lead us to creating actually the wrong answers, to creating the wrong solutions. And then we come back into the ROI on, if we actually really listen, what we can do is we can create more effective solutions, and we actually we save time. We don't waste people's times in however, how many times you went into a meeting with someone, you explain what it is, what you want, and they come up with something completely different, and you say, were you even listening when I shared this with you in the first meeting? Those are the ROIs that we can measure. Then again, another thing we do is we fill in the blanks. In other words, someone wanted to say something and say, oh, I know that, and you kind of fill in the blanks with what the person wanted to say. And again, we don't know what they wanted to say. When someone interrupts you and they continue your idea, they assume they know. Or if we don't actually listen and if we don't ask, we again fill in the blanks. Our mind is made in such a way that it looks for shortcuts. So that's why when we had an experience with a person and they were not listening, then we make that experience a generalization and we apply that to other situations, because our mind looks always for ways to do things easier with less energy expenditure, and we look for shortcuts. So it will be very easy for us to just fill in the blanks where we don't know rather than ask. The next one is we don't ask enough questions, clarification questions. One of the questions that I really love is asking, what do you mean by that? Let's say someone says something and say, can you please help me understand what they mean by that? I had an example with we were working with a Japanese client. I was with Volvo at that time, and we had there's a cultural difference, of course, between the Western Swedish culture and the Japanese culture, but also we were having some challenges, and we want to see we were discussing a change. The supplier agreed to do it, and we want to just assess if they're going to do it and how committed are they to do it, or if there's any challenges to do it. So we just then started asking some question, how do you plan to do it, or what kind of resources do you need, and have you thought about a solution, or do you need to come up with a solution? So all these questions, clarification questions, helped us see how committed the supplier was, and if there was any challenges. And we didn't need to wait until the next meeting, which was in 2 weeks time, for them to come and say, hey, well, by the way, what you asked us to do last week or 2 weeks ago, we had this question. And say, so why didn't you just bring those questions up there, right? So by asking qualification questions, qualification and clarification questions were able to help see the picture more clearly, and both parties to gain understanding of what it is that we wanted them to deliver. So not asking enough questions to clarify, is this, tell me what you're looking for. What are you trying to achieve by that? What makes you say that? Can you give me an example when that happened? How is this impacting you? How do you feel about this? What are your thoughts on that? Right? What are the implications of this? So all these questions help us clarify the person's position, the person's view, and then helps us understand better, how to then act in that situation. And the last thing here, I think we don't put enough time on trying to see the situation from the other person's perspective. Now, I sometimes praise myself because I work with different cultures, from Romania, France, with Japanese clients, German, Chinese, in the United States and the UK. I have clients in Malaysia right now. So what I'm saying is that this brings me quite of a broad perspective. So, and being through the experience I've been through in the post-communist Romania, I can maybe put some things into perspective easier than other people. But I don't think we spend enough time in trying to do that. In other words, when a team member comes to us maybe with a request for a salary discussion, for a salary increase, they, from their perspective, right? They have a perspective. Now, here I'm the leader, but how could I put myself in my team's perspective? How does it feel to hear what I'm saying from the other side of the table? What is this person trying to actually say? How is this actually gonna, impact our work? Like, just trying to ask yourself these questions will help us to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. And the last thing that I want to share with you here is kind of three strategies that leaders could implement. So if you say, Florian, I don't know, okay, you got me. I understand the case for this. I understand everything. Now let's tell me what I can do. What are some strategies that I can do? And I can share with you three strategies. The first one is what we call to be the silent countdown. So when someone shares an idea, or you're in a meeting, someone shares something or asks you a question, just try to stop for 3 seconds here and then count in your mind 3, 2, 1, and then reply. And what happens if you do that, then you're not just going to react, to whatever has been said. That short amount of time, which is only 3 seconds, would allow you to maybe better phrase your reply and maybe take in what a person has said. I have found this helps a lot because I'm usually very, I want to jump right into it, and this helps. The second one is what we call reflective summarizing. So someone shared an idea. I have maybe a client meeting. I had a team member meeting, and I'm just going to try to understand if I understood them right. So I say, so what I'm hearing is, so I'm not saying what you're saying is, what I'm hearing is this. Is that what you're saying? And did I get that right? So let me rephrase what I heard. What I heard you say was this. So then just summarize again, and then you give the person a chance to clarify maybe some things that were unclear, were they put in a different way. And then the last one will be to, this is really good for this, for leaders to actually schedule what we call to be listening sessions. So this will be like your more informal one-on-ones with your team, where you just go and have a chat with them and discuss about anything that they want to discuss with you. And you're not just going to focus on deliveries on projects. That shouldn't even be part of these meetings. So this will be just one-on-ones with your team. It could be formal or informal, where you're just going to listen to them and listen to them and ask them questions about their private life, about their hobbies, about how they feel about the work. And so just deeply listen. And you're going to see, if you do that, if you do that regularly, at least once a month or every other week, you're going to see that you're going to start getting some things that you were missing before. You're going to see body language. You're going to see how people react to something. You're going to see how, you know, when you ask a more uncomfortable question, what is their reaction? Do they know exactly what they want to share, or do have to think about it? And you allow that space. So all of those things that I was blind to, all of the reading between the lines, that's actually active listening. All right, I think that was what I want to share with you today. I think I covered everything I had in my plan here. It was unfortunate we didn't have Alena with us today. She would have been able to add even more depth to this, and definitely she could have shared her experience. But we hope to see you next in the next episode in 2 weeks' time, and I hope Alena will be with us then, and I hope I will gonna be with you. But we make the commitment. We're gonna be here in 2 weeks' time. Thank you for tuning in today. If you have any questions, maybe you drop some questions in the comments. I'm gonna go through those. I see Missy here; it's supporting us as usually. But if you have any other question, just drop them in the comments. We're gonna go through this, or just reach out to me or Alena on LinkedIn. We'll be more than happy to help. All right. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this was helpful and you got some ideas on how to hone in your active listening. I look forward to see you on the next episode. Take care. Bye bye.